Hey, everybody. Welcome to Takeoff with John Clark, presented by Rivers Casino. And we have a big one this week on NBC and Sunday Night Football. Eagles, Rams. Should be a good one. So let's bring in former Super Bowl winning head coach, Hall of Famer, and he is on Sunday Night Football. He's going to be back in L.A. this Sunday. Tony Dungy, good to see you again.
Hey, John, good to see you. And I'm excited, yes, going back to L.A., but getting a chance to see the Eagles for the first time since early in the year.
Yeah, and I want to get into like where the Eagles stand in the NFC, but this is a good game this Sunday Night Football, and we've seen the Rams really come around with Matthew Stafford and that offense since he got his receivers healthy. What kind of test do you think this Rams offense is going to be for the Eagles defense?
I think it's going to be a great test. Philadelphia, it's kind of started the year slow. They're on the rise. Same thing with the Rams. They had injuries, especially to their offense. Their offensive line was banged up at first. They had a running game, but no receivers. And Stafford was getting banged around. But then Nakua came back, Cooper Kupp came back, and now they're a balanced team. And they are playing very, very sound on offense. That's helped the two young running backs. And they're going to be a big test for this Eagles defense.
And Tony, it's been pretty amazing how the Eagles have really grown into Vic Fangio's defense. When I'm looking at the defense now, is there really any hole on the defense?
Well, they are growing, as you mentioned. We had them opening day, and I talked to a lot of the defensive players, and they were excited about Vic's defense, and this is great. We're going to be more aggressive, but they still had to learn it. And we saw some holes early on as they were kind of getting the feel of it. But now that they know what's going on, they're playing faster, playing with more confidence. And the last 4 or 5 weeks, they've been outstanding. And I think it is just a matter of, hey, we know what Coach Fangio wants now. We know our responsibilities, and we're just playing loose.
Yeah, and you see great play from Zach Baun and the linebackers. You see the pressure, Jalen Carter and the defensive front they're getting. Then you look at the secondary, and you've got Quinyon Mitchell, the rookie, getting the tutelage from Darius Slay. And Quinyon right now is one of the top corners in the NFL as a rookie. How much of a test is this with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua?
Oh, I promise you, we'll find out. If we're saying the same things after this game, then we'll know Quinyon Mitchell has arrived, because these two guys can put up numbers. They can go get the ball. They're tough. Even when you have them covered, they can outfight you for the ball. They're quick. They're good route runners. So they're going to have their hands full in the secondary. But the key thing that you mentioned to me is Jalen Carter and that pass rush. That's what allows you to play aggressively in the secondary. When you know that ball has to come out on time, you can anticipate, you can go after things. And to me, Carter, he's been the big difference in this defense.
And you know Vic Fangio, he has kind of always said, as far as blitzing, he will only blitz if he has to, and he'll pick his spots. So how impressive is it? He really hasn't had to blitz lately, and Jalen Carter just beats double teams. He's getting through, pressuring the quarterback.
Well, Vic is my era. He's old school. He believes in that. And I was the same way. I had Warren Sapp in Tampa and Dwight Freeney and Robert Mathis in Indy. And if you said blitz, they would look at you like, Coach, are you nuts? Turn us loose. Let us go. And that's what you want to hear as a defensive coordinator. And I think that's what Vic is getting back to. Hey, these four guys, they can put pressure on. We don't have to come. We don't have to play a lot of crazy stuff. We can get after the quarterback. Our DBs know that ball's coming out fast. And that's how we're going to play. And it's been fun to watch.
And it seems like the Eagles found their formula, going to the running game on offense and playing really good defense during this 6-game winning streak. And I wanted to ask you, because Jordan Mailata, Lane Johnson, Landon Dickerson, they were talking about how during the bye week, when things weren't going so well, they went into Nick Sirianni's offense and they said, we should be a running team. That should be our identity. Run the ball. What do you think of that conversation and Nick Sirianni being open to listening to his big fellas?
Well, that's one great thing about Nick. He is open and he does listen. Hopefully he was listening to them. Hopefully he was listening to Rodney Harrison and I on the Sunday night post games. We were saying the same thing. Come on, Philadelphia, get back to your identity. Run the ball. You got a great running back. Go through Saquon and you're going to be fine. When they're balanced, and I've been watching these stats here, and the last 5 or 6 weeks, it's been 38 runs, 20 passes, 42 runs, 24 passes. And that, to me, is Philadelphia football. When they're dictating on the ground and you have to stop the run, then those wide receivers, they're going to eat up one-on-one coverage. But if it's just throw and, we'll spot the run when we want to, that's not the Eagles' game. And those big fellas are right. They can control the line of scrimmage. When they were in their Super Bowl year, that's what they did. That's what everybody feared. And I think that's what we're seeing now.
And I remember sitting down with you in Brazil as we were about to see Saquon Barkley's debut for the Eagles on NBC once again. And you talked about just how good he is, but has he been even a little better than maybe you had thought with this offensive line and this offense?
Not really. I was at practice I think it was the Tuesday before the opening day. And Nick Sirianni, everybody raved about Saquon and what he could do in between the tackles, running outside, catching the ball out of the backfield. They said they had never seen a backfield talent like this. So they were expecting it. I was expecting it. And I thought when he gets behind this offensive line, and now you've got the wide receiver threats that you really can't afford to really blitz, he's going to have a big year. And it's turned out just the way I thought it would.
And it's interesting because the MVP odds are out this week again, and Jalen Hurts is like 4th or 5th in MVP odds. Saquon Barkley is kind of down the list, but he's top offensive player of the year odds. So if you were to say who's the MVP of the Eagles on offense, is it Jalen or is it Saquon?
It's a close call because Jalen Hurts still orchestrates things. He runs the offense. He calls the checks. He has to make the throws when they need them. But to me, it's as clear this offense is running through Saquon, and he gives them so much. And I think by the end of the year, people are going to see that. When they play a couple more times on national TV and people see how good this guy is and what the problems are defending him, he's going to elevate up there. I wouldn't want to be without Jalen or Saquon in this offense, but Barkley, to me, has been the key difference maker.
And in your time as a great coach in the NFL, is there somebody that you had or somebody that you've watched through your years that Saquon reminds you of? Because it's really amazing to me, Tony, even though they have a great offensive line and they create a lot of space, but once Saquon gets through the hole and he's in space, he outruns these safeties and they're taking bad angles.
Yeah, he makes the big plays. He can run inside. He can get outside. He can hit the home run. He can make the 3-yard run that you need on 3rd and 3. LaDainian Tomlinson maybe comes to mind as a guy who could hit the home run, but was also durable and tough inside. He's just a unique talent.
And Tony, it's been a bad time for the New York Giants since they let go of Saquon. They had their chance to sign him for 2 years, and we've all seen the video of their owner, John Mara, saying to the GM, look, I'm not going to be able to sleep at night if Saquon goes to the Eagles. He's our most popular player. I don't know. I'm kind of thinking like once the owner tells you he's not going to be able to sleep at night if Saquon goes and it's over $1 million or $2 million, is that, no pun intended, a giant mistake by the Giants letting him go?
No, I'll tell you, it's a tough call. And everybody goes through that with their salary cap and what it means. We had that situation. I was in Indianapolis. Edgerrin James' contract was up, and he was a fantastic player, most popular guy in our locker room, 1,500 yards running, great receiver, great pass protector, could do everything. But then you have to say, well, what is the price tag? What am I going to pay? Where's everybody else in this thing? But I will say this, Bill Polian, our general manager, had a saying that he always used to tell me, you draft athletes, you pay for special. And so if you've got special there, sometimes you need to pay for it.
See, I agree with you, Tony. And so, you see they gave all that money to Daniel Jones, and we can agree he's not special, and now he's been benched. Yeah. So you had a special talent, and the fact that he could have gone to the Eagles and they knew he was going to go right down the turnpike. And man, when he came back to MetLife Stadium and had his best game ever at MetLife, I mean, Giants fans they're crying this year.
They are, and I think that's really the do-over. If you could look back and say, okay, we've got a chance to either pay Saquon big money or pay Daniel Jones big money, I don't think there's any question what anybody in the National Football League would do, knowing what we know right now.
And does Howie Roseman just really have the touch? Because we have seen several organizations make decisions like Saquon leaving the Giants, going to the Eagles, and then Tennessee, when they traded A.J. Brown to the Eagles, they haven't been the same since. I mean, Howie Roseman, do you give him his flowers with the draft picks that he's had on defense now and a lot of draft picks on offense, but the key signings, Saquon, and then also Zach Bond, the MVP of the defense?
And it's not just signing great players. It's signing great players who fit what you do. Okay. And that's where I think Howie deserves a lot of credit. There's a ton of great players out there. But when you look and say, what do we really need? What's going to fit? We got a great offensive line. We've got a running game that's varied because they have to defend our quarterback. If we get a franchise running back in there, he's going to go crazy. So, yes, Saquon makes sense. Hey, we've got this great running attack. If we add an A.J. Brown, when he gets single covered, he can beat single coverage. He can go through people. He's going to be a star in this system. That's where I think you got to give Howie credit. He figures that out. Who's going to work in how we do things.
Hey, celebrity cook Steve Martirano is bringing his Italian-American cooking back home to Philly, where it started. Enjoy Martirano's Prime at Rivers Casino and Steve's famous meatballs with Sunday gravy, prime steaks, and more. So make reservations for Martirano's Prime on Open Table. I've been to the one in Fort Lauderdale. I'm glad it's back in Philly. So right now in the NFC, the Lions are the favorite. The Eagles are only one game back, and they have really found their identity on both sides of the ball. If you look at the schedules, the Eagles, they finished with 4 of 5 at home. And the last 2 are really soft landing with the Giants and the Cowboys with backup quarterbacks. And looking at it, the Lions, their last 2 games are 49ers and Vikings, and those teams could be playing for a lot, either their playoff lives or the division. How do you think the top seed in the NFC will shake out?
Well, everybody is enamored with the Lions right now. I'm from the Michigan area, so I'm a Detroit fan too, and it's great that they're playing well. But they've got a little bit of a tough road to go. They also have Buffalo in here. Mm-hmm. And, Philadelphia is playing their best football right now. Minnesota is playing good football, and Detroit still got to play the Vikings. So this NFC race, it's not a throw-in for any one team right now. And also, I don't know that home field advantage is the super key in this NFC. Tampa went into to Detroit earlier in the season and won a game up there. So they're not unbeatable at home. Eagles are not unbeatable at home. We know that. So I think it's who is playing the best in January when we head into this thing.
Yeah, and the Eagles have a couple tough road games right now at the Rams, and then you got to go play the Baltimore Ravens. But as I said, you finish with 4 or 5 at home. And I want to give you your flowers, Tony Dungy, because we see the notes sent out by the Eagles, and now that Nick Sirianni is 8-2 or better for these 3 straight years for the first time in Eagles history. There's only 4 or 5 other coaches over the last 30 years in the NFL who have had that great a start 3 straight years, and you're one of them with the Colts. So when you're in those situations and you have a great start, and considering the Eagles had a collapse last year, how do you keep this good vibe going and avoid what happened last year if you're Nick Sirianni?
What you have to do is approach every week as a new week. And the challenge to the team is, are we going to play Eagles football this week? Forget about the playoffs down the road. Forget about the first 10 games. It doesn't matter. What are we going to do this week? And I think hungry players make a difference. And I think they have some hungry players on the Eagles. And I don't foresee any type of letdown like we saw last year.
And it's interesting because we saw maybe a disconnect with the coaches and the players last year, maybe too many voices on both sides of the ball. When you hear that Nick Sirianni is listening to his offensive linemen, taking input, and then on defense, Zach Bond told me that if they don't like something that Vic Fangio is calling or going over, that he adjusts as well. How important is that when you hear that the coaches and the players are completely aligned?
When you're coaching, you're trying to help your players be the best they can be. And you have ideas, players have input, but it comes down to how can we help them be the best they can be? Not, oh, here's my system and you guys have to fit into it. No, I'm going to help you. So they've got some new players on defense. And I think Vic sees how they play and what they need to do, and he's tailoring it to that. And offensively, you love it when your big guys say, hey, coach, we can dominate this game. This is what we need to do. Run it behind us. Give us the ball. And the fact that they're doing that, I love it.
Some people will say, okay, to win in the NFL nowadays, to be a Super Bowl champ, you got to throw the ball and be able to throw the ball all over the field. And they have scaled back Jalen throwing the ball. But with that running game and Jalen's threat of running, do you think this Eagles offense can be a Super Bowl champion?
I absolutely do. I think this is the way they need to play. And if they play this way and go into the playoffs performing the way they are now, people are going to come in saying, we've got to commit to stop the running game. Okay, and when you do that, now you're going to have some one-on-ones. Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, they're going to be able to beat single coverage. And you won't have to throw it 50 times, but if you can throw it effectively and get those big plays, that's really how the Eagles should win, and I think how they're going to win.
And the players have talked about Nick Sirianni, that his greatest strength may be the connection that he has made with the players and taking one-on-one time with a lot of the players and listening to them and being open. I'm looking at the Coach of the Year odds, Tony, and I'm seeing Nick Sirianni. He's like 15th. Does he not get enough respect around the NFL or with the public?
Well, what happens, especially when you're consistent like this, you mentioned 8-2, people just come to expect that. So when somebody does something off the radar, then people get all excited about that. Coach Sirianni has done a tremendous job there. I go back to my coach in Pittsburgh, Chuck Noll. We won 4 Super Bowls in 6 years. He was never in the running for Coach of the Year. People just assume we had a good team. We had a lot of talent. We played together. And then you think, well, who did that? Who put that together? And it's like they don't want to give that guy any credit. But Coach Sirianni, I'm sure he would take Super Bowl rings over Coach of the Year, and that's the way you have to look at it.
And you've been kind of a mentor to Coach Sirianni. He's talked with you and gone over issues. Do you sense that he has grown a little bit? Because, of course, we've seen him get emotional, and we had that episode where they had just won a game and he was chirping back at Eagles fans. He does get a little emotional. We had the thing with the Chiefs last year and Chiefs fans leaving the field after win. Do you think he's kind of learning how to rein in that emotion a little bit?
He's growing. Everybody grows as a head coach. I did over my 14 years too. So that happens. But he is very, very inquisitive. He wants to know. He is very introspective, and he's doing a tremendous job, I think. We had a conversation about 6 weeks ago, and he was talking to me about Warren Sapp, and he said, I've got another Warren Sapp right here. I've got to get him playing like this. Well, I don't know what he said to Jalen Carter, but he's got him playing like Warren Sapp. So to me, that's what counts.
Yeah, you're right. And to be able to go to the level of the player or speak on his level and learn what matters most to the player and connect with that player. And you had Jalen Carter play every snap against Washington. Some people were saying, oh my goodness, the Georgia guys, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, they're not in good enough shape. But I guess we're finding out that they did get in good shape.
Yeah, they can be, and they're going to deliver what's needed. And I think that's the conversation that Nick has had with Jalen. Sometimes I need more from you. Sometimes we can scale it back and I can rotate you out. But in these big games, I'm going to need you every single play. And I think Jalen Carter has said, come on, coach, let's go. Let's ride with this. And it's been beautiful to see.
Tony, to kind of wrap this up, it's been a fascinating year in the NFL because we've kind of seen the return of the big running back or the running game and how it has really helped teams like the Eagles, the Ravens, the Lions. And then in some instances, you've got these great quarterbacks in the NFL like Patrick Mahomes, but it's their defense that's leading the way. Are you seeing some trends adjusting or changing at all in this league?
Well, I think we have to understand that running still is a big, big part of the NFL. And I look at Buffalo and Josh Allen not turning the ball over as much this year. Well, they're running James Cook more. Kansas City was struggling on offense when Pacheco got hurt. They bring Kareem Hunt in, and he's bringing that power running game back. Detroit, two-headed monster there. running the football. And so I think we can't forget about that. Yes, it's a quarterback-driven league, and yes, your quarterback's going to have to make big plays in crunch time. But if you can't run the ball, if it's all on the quarterback, it's very, very tough to win.
All right, and I'll leave you with this. I was hearing a conversation between Teddy Bruschi and some of the guys on TV, and they were talking about how coaches everywhere are always trying to gain an advantage and find something out about the other team. And they said even when they were on the road or at home, whatever, especially in New England, they would leave behind fake game plans or fake sheets or things like that. Is there ever that kind of reverse espionage or like really trying to plant some seeds if another team is searching for all those little nuggets out there?
I never really concern myself with that too much. I know people do it and people are all concerned about it. My message to our team is if we know what we're doing and we play our game, we're going to be tough to beat. And Chuck Noll, he drilled that into us when I was playing for him and we were winning Super Bowls in Pittsburgh. He always used to say, pressure is what you feel when you don't know what to do. If you know what to do, you won't feel pressure. So that was my thing. Let's make sure we know what we're doing. Forget about the other team. They've got to beat us. And I think the good teams really play with that kind of swagger.
Yeah, and I think this Eagles team is playing with the swagger now because they know their running game, and they can, they're scoring most of their points in the second half. When they figure out what the defense is doing, they're imposing their will as an offensive line and a running team.
I think that's what I see. That swagger. Hey, we're going to come in. Our offensive line is going to dominate the game. And defensively, you got to deal with our front four. Can you handle that? If you can't, it's going to be a long day for you. And they come in with that confidence every week, and it's tough to deal with.
Well, we're going to get your pick on Sunday night. I know you wait during the week. You build up to that Sunday night pick for Eagles and Rams. We look forward to seeing you on Sunday Night Football. And I like how you're out at the games. You guys are, and that's a beautiful place to be. It's so fun.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun, and this is going to be a great game. Two teams that are playing really balanced football, and I think the audience is in for a treat.
And we're going to see a lot of Eagles fans taking over
in
LA. They always do.
Yes, you will.
All right, Tony, good to see you again. Look forward to seeing you in person again, like the Eagles and the Packers in Brazil. And we will see you in LA on NBC Sunday Night Football. Appreciate the time this week.
All right. Thank you, John. Always great to hear this.
Oh, mom, so flagrant.